Now on WNCT 9 News at 5, live coverage of opening day for the Down East Wood Ducks. Minor League Baseball is back at historic Granger Stadium. We'll get you ready for everything in store for the Wood Ducks' final season.
Also ahead on your News at 5, April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and Beaufort County Department of Social Services is raising awareness. We have the details from an event they held today to unite the community.
Now, it's your forecast first from Storm Team 9.
What a beautiful day of weather here in eastern North Carolina, especially for baseball. You saw Ken Watlington live over at Granger Stadium. We'll talk about that and look ahead to the weekend coming up. The longest running newscast in the East starts now.
On your side, this is WNCT 9 News at 5.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angie Casada in the WNCT 9 studio.
And I'm Ken Watlington live this afternoon in Kinston. It is the home opener for the Down East Wood Ducks here at historic Granger Stadium. First pitch between the Woodies and the Lynchburg Hillcats is set for 7 o'clock tonight. And we've got live team coverage over the next 90 minutes to get you set for this foul well season for the Wood Ducks. Let's set the scene here at Granger Stadium. I mentioned it's the foul well season as the Wood Ducks are planning to move to Spartanburg, South Carolina for the 2025 season. The gates will open here at Granger officially at 6 o'clock, a little less than an hour away when the fans will walk in. All the concessions will be open. The team store will also be open. We'll talk about all the stuff you can buy here at the stadium coming up in just a moment. It is game 1 of 66 home games in the final season of Down East Wood Ducks baseball. And for the past 7 years, baseball fans from across eastern North Carolina have enjoyed watching the Woodies live here at Granger Stadium. And the businesses in this area have also liked seeing the boost those games bring. Now to your sides, Aaron Jenkins begins our team coverage live at the concourse here at Granger Stadium. And Aaron, you spoke with a few of those businesses today. How are they feeling on this last home opener?
Well, Ken, they are ready to go. Everyone in Kinston says there's just an extra little buzz in the air this time of year when the Wood Ducks start their season back up. Now, they say they are a little sad that this is their last season, but they are now ready to soak up every moment of the season that we have now. One of my first stops today was at Leggett Cafe here in Kinston. The breakfast and lunch spot has been in Kinston for 3 generations. Steve Leggett is the current owner. He is a huge baseball fan just for the game itself and also the business it brings to his Kinston staple. Typically every year he gets to know the opposing teams. Those players walk over for breakfast on a lot of days. Leggett also caters some of the day games at the ballpark. Being raised here in Kinston, Leggett and his family have seen a lot of teams come through town.
First team I remember was the Eagles, and then I guess it was the Indians for a long time. And then we had that dry spell for several years. And then, you know, we got the Wood Duck we hadn't made when they came back 5 years ago. And, you know, we noticed for last year, man, it's going to be different when they're gone. I can tell you, we're going to miss the whole Wood Duck, everybody that works there and all the players and the visiting teams.
Now, I also talked with Kinston Mayor Don Hardy today about what's next for baseball here at historic Granger Stadium. He ensures that there will be some type of baseball in Kinston next season, but they are just waiting to release those details. But for right now, he just hopes everyone comes out to Granger Stadium just to enjoy the season that we have here in front of us, just like we are here on this nice day in Kinston. Ken, we'll send it back to you guys upstairs.
All right, Aaron Jenkins down on the concourse for us. A lot goes into getting historic Granger Stadium ready for opening day. Now on your side, anchor Courtney Courtright continues our coverage now. And Courtney, good food is always part of the experience. So what does it take to get the concessions ready?
Ken, I mean, as you can imagine, hours and hours goes into what we are going to see here today. When those gates open, it takes time, preparation, and a good team to step up to the plate. Those are the keys to success here. A team of 45 people work on concessions throughout the offseason to get everything in place. They're scheduling deliveries, stocking up, and so much more. When it gets closer to game days, you can imagine things do pick up here. The general manager of Rev Entertainment says when it comes to the start of the season, it is all hands on deck.
When we get into game season and this week, these are 100-hour weeks. We want everything to be perfect Friday night. We want everything to be rolling. As soon as the gates open and fans start coming through, we need to be ready.
And rocking and rolling with another season comes new menu items. I know some fans are curious about that. The food is a really big part of the game day experience. So coming up on your news at 6, we will take a look at the concession stands to see what they're serving up.
Obviously, my favorite part of baseball is the food. Courtney will check in with you in just a bit. Much more to come from here at Granger Stadium in Kinston throughout our newscast, all the way up until 6:30. In about 10 minutes, we'll take you down to the team store for a look at some new Wood Ducks gear for fans this season. Right now, though, let's go back to the studio for a check of today's headlines with Angie.
All right, Ken, thank you so much.
On your side, this is WNCT 9 News at 5.
Well, we'll start out with some good news to report on Hurricane Idalia. It is now Tropical Storm Idalia. It has weakened down below tropical storm status, but is still going to bring a punch. We'll have the complete update coming up. The longest running newscast in the East starts now.
And we have live team coverage this afternoon on the expected impacts from Idalia across the east. 9 on your side's Claire Curry is in North Topsail Beach. Aaron Jenkins is at Atlantic Beach, and Sarah Gray Barr will join us momentarily from New Bern. But we begin with the aftermath of the storm making landfall today in Florida. Good afternoon. I'm Ken Watlington.
And I'm Angie Casava. Hurricane Idalia made landfall this morning in Florida as a major hurricane with strong winds and surging water.
Alexandra Limon joins us now live from Washington, D.C. with what we know about the damage so far and the federal response.
Yeah, and today we heard from federal officials as well as Florida governors, and they said that although some deaths have been reported as a result of crashes during that storm, so far the hurricane hasn't been officially confirmed as the cause of any fatalities. Hurricane Idalia slammed Florida as a Category 3, causing major damage to counties in rural areas.
These counties are not going to be able to afford that on their own, of course, even with a 75% cost share with the federal government.
Storm surge sent several feet of water into streets and towns in the Big Bend area.
Idalia is the strongest storm to hit this part of Florida.
The storm eventually slowed to a Category 1 as it continued on its path to Georgia.
But it is still very dangerous with winds up to 75 miles an hour.
President Biden says he spoke to the governors of all of the states expected to be impacted by the hurricane, including Florida's Ron DeSantis.
And approved an early request for emergency declaration to enable him to have the full support ahead of time to protect the people's lives in the state of Florida.
FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell says the federal government will provide all the help that's needed, but FEMA funds are already stretched thin by previous natural disasters this year, including the Maui wildfires.
We are monitoring it very closely, right? Every day we are looking at what the cost of these storms are.
The Biden administration warns that storms like this are getting worse and happening more frequently because of the warming climate.
They are intensifying more rapidly due to the elevated heat of the water temperature in the Gulf or in the Pacific or whether it's in the Atlantic.
Also said that more than 1,000 federal personnel were sent to the southeast ahead of the storm and that they will remain there to help with the recovery efforts. Live in Washington, Alexandra Limon.
Alexandra, thank you. As Idalia gets closer to North Carolina, Governor Roy Cooper says the state is taking steps to get ready for this storm. He says his main concerns are heavy rain and flash flooding across eastern and central North Carolina. The governor has activated the National Guard and swiftwater rescue teams are ready as well. The governor declared a state of emergency earlier this week, and President Joe Biden says he will offer up anything the state may need.
People need to remember, you see this cone of influence, so to speak, of the hurricane. You can still feel effects way outside of that zone.
Governor Cooper also wants all communities to be ready for whatever comes, even those outside of the storm's path, as anything could change.
And residents across the east are getting geared up for what's to come from Idalia.
9 on your sides, Claire Curry begins our local team coverage this afternoon live from North Topsail Beach.
Claire, what's it looking like out there at this hour?
Angie, Ken, it's been a relatively peaceful day here in North Topsail Beach so far. I'm currently at the Onslow County Beach Access number 4, and right now there's quite a few surfers out catching some last-minute wave and some sprinkles coming down, but that's not stopping residents from being prepared just in case. I spoke with one resident here on the Carolina coast about their concerns with the impending weather. One resident says that Florence taught her a lesson about being prepared in advance, so she's stocked up for herself and everyone else in her household. And another resident tells me that his biggest concern is flooding on the roadways.
Be prepared for each family member. Make sure you have water, you have non-perishable items for each of your family members. Gas up your car.
The town of North Topsail Beach is already making preparations as well, securing anything that might blow away and closing one road due to high flooding. The town is also using their drone to have a better look at the dune erosion before and after the storm. I also spoke with Governor Roy Cooper earlier today as he made a stop in Kinston. He says it's important to be prepared just in case. Live in North Topsail Beach, Claire Curry, 9 on your side.
All right, Claire, thank you so much. We move now to New Bern, where 9 on your side, Sarah Gray Barr is live in Unionport Park. So, Sarah Gray, you spent the day speaking with county officials. So what did they tell you?
Angie, for many, Idalia could be the biggest storm since Florence. When I caught up with emergency services today, they're urging people to be careful, as one tragedy is one tragedy too many. It rained on and off today, but emergency services say they're prepared to handle several inches of rain, but warn that certain areas like Union Point Park could see flooding, and power outages are expected, but storm surge should be minimal. We asked which areas people need to be wary of.
We're targeting looking at the lower end of Adams Creek Road down into Harlow community, where they're surrounded by the Intercoastal Waterway and the Neuse River, kind of like a little peninsula area down there. They have a historical flooding problem anyway, so it's going to probably be a high impact zone.
Other flood-prone areas include the Bridgeton area, as well as areas along the Trent River, Bryce's Creek, and Lawson Creek Park. Kite adds people should not drive through standing water if they are in these areas. He also says that this is the type of weather people just need to hunker down, ride out, and stay safe. Live in New Bern, Sarah Gray Barr, 9 on your side.
All right, Sarah Gray, thank you. Let's take you now south of the border in the Grand Strand of South Carolina. Here's a live look at Myrtle Beach. And if you're familiar with this area, this is around the Bowery along North Ocean Boulevard and 9th Avenue. And you can see there the conditions a little bit different than what we're seeing along the North Carolina coast. Some heavy rain, heavy surf, gray conditions as the ray comes down there. Maybe an idea of what we can expect a little later tonight here across eastern North Carolina. And a little further north now as we take a look at the conditions along the Crystal Coast. Now to your sides, Aaron Jenkins continues our team coverage now live from Atlantic Beach. And Aaron, how are things looking there right now?
Well, Ken, right now we're at the pier at Atlantic Beach, and right now it's a little cloudy and windy here. We're starting to see just a few droplets of rain come down. On our way here today, we ran into some rainstorms, but we also saw some patches of blue skies, so definitely some varying conditions. But what I will tell you, normally a day like this, it would be pretty packed out here at Atlantic Beach. But right now, there's still some surfers taking advantage of the waves out here at Atlantic Beach today. Now, I did talk with Carteret County officials today who say they're really staying prepared and monitoring the storm as it comes in and as the conditions change today. They're not really sure what's going to happen, but they're definitely taking precautions and making sure that they're ready to go in case anything does change. And now one thing that I do want to show you right here is that there's actually red flags out here at Atlantic Beach, which the Atlantic Beach Fire Department says means to stay out of the water.
The system moving through North Carolina today is not a tropical system, but it's packing the punch of one. Take a look at the view out at Atlantic Beach on our Live I-9 camera. You see the camera there shaking in the wind. Plus, we'll let you know when everything will end for good coming up. The longest running newscast in the East starts now.
On your side, this is WNCT 9 News at 5.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ken Watlington.
And I'm Angie Casada. Thank you so much for joining us.
We have live team coverage this afternoon of the conditions across the east with our team of reporters. 9 on your sides, Claire Curry is along the coast tonight. Sarah Gray Barr is right here in Greenville. We'll also check in with Aaron Jenkins later on in the show.
We're keeping in touch with counties across the east to hear how different emergency management groups are getting ready for this weather and what they want residents to know.
Now to your side, Sarah Gray-Barr begins our team coverage live from the town common. Sarah Gray, what are the conditions like out there right now?
Ken, Angie, the rain is coming down. The wind is picking up. If you listen, you might be able to hear the wind whistle. It's all conditions that mean that you should stay inside and hunker down until the system passes through. I caught up with different emergency management groups in different counties to hear what they had to say about the weather. Pitt County Emergency Management Director Randy Gentry says all their staff is on standby, ready to respond. Gentry says to avoid areas that are prone to flooding like parts of First Street and the town common in Greenville. In Craven County, the advice is similar. Stay away from those low-lying areas which flood like Union Point Park and Bryce's Creek. And if you come upon standing water, turn around. Strong winds could lead to power outages and debris, officials say.
The high wind is the big thing that we're watching right now, which may cause limbs to fall out of trees or trees to fall over. Slow down. It's safer to slow down, take your time, and arrive safely than it is to have an issue on the highway because of the high water.
Beaufort County Emergency Management urges residents to stay indoors, adding people in the Bellhaven area are especially at risk. Lenoir County EMS says the conditions are just right for a tornado and crews are on standby and remind citizens to pay attention to the conditions and take caution. Again, please stay home if you can, and if you must go out, be especially vigilant on the roads. Live in Greenville, Sarah Gray-Barr, 9 on your side.
Absolutely, Sarah Gray, thank you. Down along the Crystal Coast now, we're checking in with emergency officials on how they're preparing for potential impacts. 9 on your side's Claire Curry is joining us live in Atlantic Beach. And Claire, how are the conditions looking there right now?
Angie, I've been here in Carteret County all day today, and one thing that I've noticed that's just grown consistently stronger and stronger throughout the day is the wind, even at some points hearing it whistling or howling. But I've also been seeing a lot of the impacts of that wind throughout Atlantic Beach and Beaufort. Flags, hanging light fixtures, and tree limbs blowing through the wind along Front Street and near the courthouse in Beaufort, as well as leaves traveling across the road with each gust of wind. But in Atlantic Beach, that changed to sand traveling across the road and collecting into piles. And the waves are massive. Emergency officials say that strong winds are their main concern, especially if it strengthens into a stronger system.
Make sure that they pick up everything that they have outside that's loose, chairs, tables that's on their decks, and make sure they stay indoors. If there's a threat of a tornado, they need to make sure they go to the center of their home to a place without any windows.
The emergency services director adds that people should call 911 for any hazards in the roadway, but people need to stay away from any down power lines for their own safety and to call their electric company to report any power outages in their area. Officials here in Carteret County also urge people to sign up for their Code Red system to get alerts and stay up to date throughout the storm. Live in Atlantic Beach, Claire Curry, 9 on your side.
Claire, thank you. Now, we are 9 on your drive tonight as we're tracking live road conditions across the east.
Let's take a live look inside 9 on your drive right now. Our team in Lenoir County driving down Interstate Highway 11 right now. This is going north in Kinston, going towards the Pitt County line. You can see the windshield wipers working really hard in the area as the rain is coming down pretty hard. Our crew inside the car traveling safely on Highway 11 right now and tells us there has been some debris, some tree limbs flying across the roadway. And we've seen a little bit of that debris on the drive so far. We will check back in on the drive and the live conditions on the area roadways in just a little bit.
And across the state, Governor Roy Cooper activated emergency operations centers because of today's weather. He declared a state of emergency yesterday ahead of the storm. That will help utility companies move equipment easily when responding to emergencies.
It's important to make sure that we are ready for the worst. We hope that the storms aren't as bad as that they potentially could be, but we've got to prepare for the worst. And we know that flash flooding can occur, so that's why we have swift water rescue teams.
The governor is urging people to be safe and cautious during heavy rainfall and winds and to expect flooding and power outages.
Attorney General Josh Stein wants everyone to be on alert for scams during and after this storm. Once the governor declared a state of emergency, the state's price gouging laws went into effect to prevent the price of supplies and resources from skyrocketing. Still, Stein says when storms leave damage behind and people are looking for cleanup crews or even tree removal services, you can sometimes run into scams.
Be wary about people who come and knock on your door. Make sure you get references from your neighbors about who does a good job. Get a couple different quotes. Choose the one that's right for you.
Stein says to always get an offer for repair work in writing and to not pay for the work up front. If you do think you've been scammed, he says report it to his office immediately.